Good evening and welcome to the Bobby Moore Stand. I'm Gary, this is Chris, and got a lot to talk about. It's midweek, so thought, why not do a live? It's Wednesday. No one's ever got anything to do on a Wednesday, have they? So busy week this week, isn't it? It's a busy week. And we've got Ipswich coming up at the weekend. But before we go anywhere, let's just talk about a few bits of news. Let's have a little gentle discussion before we dive into the detail. Good evening, everybody in the chat, by the way. Right, let's have a look. West Ham owners take unprecedented action on Mohamed Kudus for the game on Saturday, which is an article that says they're not really going to take any action against him at all. They're just playing it down. I don't know where they get these headline writers from. Well, they basically get you to click. I did click, so they got it achieved. Mission accomplished on that one. But what do you think about that? About the Kudus and Lopetegui falling out, Chris?
I think it's been blown out of proportion, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it, these kind of things happen all the time. You know, every club they happen. I think it's just so happened that it's kind of gone out there. Someone's leaked it to some extent. Who that is, we don't know. Could it be his agent? God knows. But yeah, I mean, look, these things happen all the time, mate. So I don't really look too much into it. It happens at every club, every season, every week. It happens all the time. And happy that he's not playing in his position, whatever, right? It's just, I think we don't need to look too much into it. And from what I understand, they've all kind of kissed and made up as well. So we just need to move on from it and stop chatting about the negatives.
Oh, I agree. And I look really bright tonight, don't I? I don't know what's going on with this camera, but it's picking up the white.
Glowing, mate. Glowing.
Headlights. But whatever. Don't matter. I'll fix it tomorrow. In fact, I'll fix it when I get my neon sign back, which was supposed to be yesterday. It still ain't here. So I've got to have another argument with them now. Gits. Right. So yeah, I agree with that, to be honest. I agree. That is just normal. It's just normal. Players lose their shit, don't they? Managers lose their shit as well. He was probably digging him out at half time. Because apparently he was screaming at him to pass the ball because Kudus, love him as a player, but he ain't been getting his head up and trying to find his teammates. He has been getting his head down and literally driving towards beat 1, beat 2, beat 3. And by the time he gets there, he's got no one up with him because guess what? That's not the way Lopetegui plays. He ain't going to, that's like the Moyes way of playing. The same with Paqueta, who plays those balls over the top, looking for someone. It's not the way that Lopetegui's plays, right? That is the Moyes way of playing from last year. They've got to get it out of their system and start buying into what he's trying to do. Talking about what he's trying to do, I did put a video up on Monday, just reflecting back on the weekend, where I got roundly slaughtered for being positive after that game. And look, it is what it is. It's part of, you stick your head up on YouTube, you're going to get chopped off sometimes, right? I happen to use the word brilliant. I didn't really mean brilliant, and I explained that on Monday. What I meant was, well, I won't explain it again, but what I'll say is the one that I did on Monday was like 95% positive. Got some really nice comments, some really good feedback, mixed in with a couple of not so nice comments, obviously, because they always happen. One guy today said it was a 16-minute puff piece for Lopetegui, which it wasn't. It was never once did I say what a fantastic manager he is. Never once did I say he'd definitely be successful or, I'm sure about him. Because all I said was, you're being a little bit unfair and a little bit premature, asking for him to go, asking for his head after 5 games and then 6 games. And more than likely, there are people who really want to see us lose this weekend so they can stick the knife in further, right? And my big question that not very many people have answered, especially the ones who left negative comments, and that is, I'm not going to go through it again, but is there anything this guy could do that would lead you to change your mind? Because if there isn't, say he was successful suddenly, might happen, might not, right? But say he was successful, playing the right football, selecting the right people, according to you, does everything you want him to, would you then back down, put your hands up and say, yeah, I was wrong about him? Or would you carry on down this line and say, no, I want him out. I decided. I've made my mind up. I've nailed my colours to the mast. He's got to go. Because I think there are a lot of people like that. And those people, as far as I'm concerned, if he's doing well for West Ham, that means West Ham's doing well. So if you're going against that, what does that mean? Other than you don't want West Ham to do well, you just revel in crisis. Yeah, you love a bit of misery around the club. And I must admit, I was quite enjoying the happiness around the club when we signed all those players in the summer. It was good, and I thought it'd take quite a few games especially bearing in mind when the fixtures came out. That is a tough start to the season, isn't it?
Of course it is, mate. I think it's about being realistic, and I've been banging on about this for a number of weeks, Gary, right? I do understand why people are upset. I do understand why perhaps people aren't happy with the level of performance that we've obviously been putting out. I get all of that stuff. And I also understand when people say, oh, well, it's been 6 games. Why is he making stupid decisions? Look, we agree on this. We've had these discussions before about why he's played 3 at the back, why he played Alvarez at the back, or why he plays Kudus on the left. All of these things, we know this stuff, right? But I also feel that irrespective of those decisions that he's made, you have to still give him some time, right? And my mark is 10 games. I always said 10 games. I think by which point we'll know a hell of a lot more. At the moment, it doesn't look great. I'm going to be honest. It doesn't look great. But why would we try and throw the book at the guy when he's 6 games into his career at West Ham? That's what I don't understand. You've got to give him some time. Have to.
I think you can. I think you're wrong, Dan. By the way, as disappointing as it is, I think there are people out there who are basically, that is what it's all about now. They were waiting for that point where they could jump over the fence and say, "I've seen enough. I want him out." Now they're stuck to that narrative, and other people are following them down that track. Right. So it disappoints me but I'll tell you what, there were a few people who said they've made their mind up. They responded to the comment, and actually they've made their mind up. So they do exist, and I know for a fact they exist. Who am I kidding? Right. So
equally, there are a lot of people that are saying negative things about Lopetegui, but if he does well, they're going to switch over and say, do you know what? Fully behind it. And rightly so. But I think there are, and it's a minority though, Gal. I do think it's a minority of people that will still stick to their guns, even if he does well. That's not majority. It's a minority.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree with that. That people will change sides almost overnight if he starts doing well. Absolutely. And then they'll be accused of being flip-floppers, right? Because apparently once you make your mind up about something, no matter what the evidence, you can't change your mind, right? That's what it's all about.
You're not a West Ham fan if you still want him out if he's doing well.
Yeah. No, I agree. By the way, talking about West Ham fans, I enjoy going to games. Do you enjoy going to games, Chris?
I do, but I want the results, mate, to go with it.
Yeah.
The results, mate.
But I mean, actually going to games, do you think there's any value in it, Chris?
Of course I do, mate. You can't compare going to, I mean, with respect, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've not always had a season ticket.
Yeah.
But there's no comparison when you're in the ground to when you watch it on the box. It's the reality. I know some people can't go to games for whatever reason. Doesn't mean they're any less a West Ham fan than us that go to games.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like I see a lot more when I go to games, mate. Yeah. Sometimes I don't, actually. To be fair, sometimes I don't. But more often than not, if I'm looking at a shape of a team or I'm looking at the formation, you'll see maybe 2/3 of that, if you're lucky, on the TV screen. When you're watching it in the pitch, you can see exactly how far players are apart from each other. You can see gaping holes. You can see everything. Yeah. So I know a lot of people bang on about this and say, oh, you can watch it from telly and you can see it better. I kind of disagree. I think you can do both, but you can see things in the ground that you absolutely, unequivocally speaking, will not see on the TV, even if you watch the highlights reel. Because you and I have conversations about games afterwards. Sometimes I'll be like, watch the highlights. It's not on there. We've seen something different, right? We watch the whole game. Forget the highlights. We can watch the whole game. Yeah. But we won't see some of the things that we would have seen maybe in defence, right? Yeah. Some of the things that are going on with the goalkeeper and the back four, whatever, right? So I do think there's a distinct difference. So, to answer your question, of course, I enjoy going to West Ham. I enjoy going to games. Just want the performances, mate. That's it. That's all I want right now,
Yeah, but this is something that's been deliberately twisted by somebody. I won't say who, but it's been deliberately twisted. When I started this channel and you came on this channel, the MO of this channel is to unite fans, not to divide them, right? Now, there are some channels that love division. It's what they live off. If there's bread and butter, it's the air they breathe, right? Well, it ain't the air we breathe. I think it's just as important that no matter where you watch the games, if you watch it, you can watch it in the States. You can watch it somewhere where you're not going to get to games. You might have been someone that used to go all the time to games and you've got great memories of it, right? But also don't forget, there are fans in the ground as well. And so what I wanted to do with this channel is to bring both sets of fans together and represent both sides of the argument and how it's being seen. Well, hopefully not both sides of the argument, both sides of watching West Ham do well, right? But you're going to see different views from inside the ground and watching it on telly. You absolutely are. When the camera moves down the other end of the pitch, you sometimes see someone, do something, or body language, or they're not they're not chasing back as they should. They're not closing down. It's the look on their face. You see all that stuff up close. That's what you get in the ground. And what I wanted to do was bridge that gap between the people in the ground and the people at home to give a more rounded view of everything that's going on. Nobody is superior. If you can't get to games for one reason or another, like you're on the other side of the world, whatever, that's fine. As Chris said, you're no less of a supporter than anyone else. But bear in mind, I don't take that kindly to people putting people who go to football down. Right? They're the ones that invest the time and money to go to games.
Yeah.
Something that I've done for years. Now, if you think that's just not worth a toss, and you can just take the piss out of that, it shows what kind of a West Ham supporter you are, really. Right? Yeah. So yeah, there we go. To be very clear about this, I don't care where you watch football, whether you watch it in the ground or at home. I don't think either set of those supporters deserve putting down. And you shouldn't suggest that one is superior to the other, which I've never done. Right?
No, I agree with you, mate. There's no superiority about it. For me, like I said before, I've not always had a season ticket. I have done for a number of years now, but I haven't always had one. And yeah, look, it didn't make me any less of a supporter. We never say that, but for sure, you do see things differently in the ground. You do, and it's not just the atmosphere, by the way. It's not just the atmosphere or the banter or anything like that. Yeah, of course you get that. But to your point, quite frequently when we're on the attack, sometimes I don't think anything's going to come of it. You kind of know. So I'm looking at what the defenders are doing. And I've seen quite frequently defenders switching off and looking the other way, not even watching the fucking game. Yeah. So you kind of got to ask yourself, well, they don't show that kind of stuff on TV because they'll show that final third of the pitch when we're attacking, but they're not showing a player whose body language is absolutely shockingly bad, looking the other way or looking at the stand. And we see those kind of things. We see those sort of things when we go to games, So I think you're right. It's kind of sharing those experiences and things that we see that perhaps you can't see on TV, right? And that's the reality of it. And I would quite frequently, when I weren't going to games, and sometimes when I still don't go to away games, I'll ask people and I'll ask supporters, what's going on there? And they'll tell me something that I absolutely not seen on TV. So it's always good to get a different perspective.
And why do managers go very frequently to watch the team they're playing next week in person?
Yeah.
For that reason, right? Shane, getting called a plastic fan because you can't watch in the stadium, it's inexcusable, right? You're a West Ham fan. Don't care where you are, how often you go to the stadium, it don't matter. As long as you've got the same opinion of people that are in the stadium, right?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. West Ham fans I know, some of the biggest West Ham fans I know, do not have season tickets. Yeah. They watch it from home, and sometimes they aren't even able to watch it, but they are some of the biggest West Ham fans I know. So that says it all, really.
You're right. It is insane, Claire. It's mental. Why would someone take the piss out of actually going to the game? Yeah. But it's pretty amazing what people will say to win an argument. They'll say anything, literally anything. Well, it's an argument don't even fucking exist. They've created it, right? So
you've got the beauty of two things, Gal. You can watch the game in person, and you can watch the highlights reel or watch the full game when you get back home. So you can see what I tend to do.
That's what I tend to do. I tend to watch both, right? And it does surprise me sometimes when I get home and realise something I thought happened didn't happen quite as I did, or the other way around, or vice versa, right? Because sometimes you're human, right? You're attracted to something, you're attracted to something else, and you're not getting quite the full picture of the whole pitch. You're getting where the ball is on telly. You see things in the replay. So if it's a goal or something and it's a mistake, you'll see a slow motion replay that tells you who was responsible for it and stuff like that. You can see who was offside, who made the mistake, which you can't see necessarily in real time. You can have a best guess at it, but I think that's the advantage.
Well, mate, here's an example for you, Gal.
Yeah.
Last week when I went up to Liverpool, you and I had a conversation after the game, and I was telling you about, I'm not going to say player, about a particular player that I thought did really well. And you weren't quite in agreement with me at that particular moment. But I saw it from a different angle from you, because actually I was watching him off the ball and seeing the work rate that he was putting in. You wouldn't see that if you're watching that on TV. And then when you watch it back, you started looking into it, and you're like, you know what, you were bang on right. He was having a good game when he came on. And that's the difference.
And that was about Mickey. And also when we think back to Man City, he worked like a dog that game. He really did, Mickey. Yeah. And yet people were saying he's crap.
Right? Well, he's crap after 60 minutes, right? That's the thing.
Well, he is, he is.
That's the reality. He needs to be an impact sub, or you give him 55, 60 minutes of a game where he can give it his all. After that, he's done, and you have to make a change.
Nigel, we'll come to Ipswich in a minute, but I don't know how you can say something like that. We must not concede against Ipswich. I mean, Why not? I mean, I want to get a result against Ipswich. Don't get me wrong, but it's a bit of a black and white thing to say, isn't it? I mean, look, football is not black and white. It's subjective at best, and also a lot of people have got a lot of different views. You can listen to ex-players, pundits, experts who sometimes get it absolutely bang on. A lot of time they get it absolutely wrong. Because football changes. You can have someone who's absolutely brilliant, a brilliant player, can turn up and have a mare, right? Or a defender could be exceptional. You know, anything can happen. There are so many moving parts in a game of football. It's unreal. You know, did you get your football shirt frames in from the shop, Chris? You didn't, did you?
Bit of both. Yeah.
So Randy says Lopetegui deserves time, but also has to show fans there is a definitive style so that there is something to cling on to. Yes, and I totally agree. Like I said, it's not black and white with me. I'm not saying he's great. I'm not, nor are you, Chris. Not saying he's great. Not saying he's great. What I'm saying is he needs time, and this is absolutely one of the things he needs to do. Because at the moment, it's clear those players have not learned the system well enough. Like I said earlier, Kudus and Paqueta, they're still playing in last year's team, really.
Yeah, it's going to take time. It is going to take time. And again, you know, I know people argue and say, "Oh, yeah, but some of these players are still from the old guard." But we're playing a new system, you know, under a new manager, a new style of football. All of these things. And I don't want to keep repeating myself because I feel like I'm saying the same thing again and again and again. Yeah. But I will point out one thing here. Again, I am absolutely not like a massive Lopetegui fan. I'm not at the moment. No. But I'll support him as long as he's a West Ham manager. It's as simple as that. And my opinion, it could go super negative. I mean, if we get absolutely taunced by Ipswich on Saturday and we're horrific, then I'm probably going to have a dig at the manager. I'm not going to lie, but I think at this moment I'm not going to say Lopetegui out until after 10 games, right? Unless we get spanked for the next 4 or 5 games in a row.
Yeah. Mohamed Kudus attended the Arsenal PSG game. Reliable sources report that he is about to sign for both clubs and will play alternate games for each.
That. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. And again, last thing on this subject, if you feel passionate about West Ham, you're a West Ham fan. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. As well, if you ain't got the money, and you can't get to football games, it's a bloody expensive hobby going to West Ham. You know, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, right? You're a West Ham fan, you're a West Ham fan. Don't care where you are or how you watch it. A scrappy point at Brentford could be a starting point for us. But European break, your thoughts, especially when we're trying to find a bit of form. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's come at a wrong time, but maybe it's come at the right time. The game straight after the European break. So we've got Ipswich and then we've got Man United, haven't we? Or is it Tottenham then Man United?
Spurs right. Away.
Oh, so that's after the international break, Spurs. So this brings us on to the other bit of news that that unfortunately Nicholas Füllkrug, his injury is worse than first thought, and he's not going to be back for Saturday. So it will be Antonio again on Saturday. We'll come to the team selector after. We'll kind of try and figure it out. You know, and I'm sure that him and Kudus have had a heart-to-heart by now as well. Yeah, I think it might have come at the right time, this one. I haven't checked the fixtures to see who's going to be flying around the world because I hope it ain't like it was last time. You know, that was a disaster especially for Antonio. Yeah. But at least Füllkrug will be staying and not going away with Germany this time. That's the good thing. So he should be ready.
Well, right. We were having this discussion the other day, and there's part of me thinking if he was fit and he was to hypothetically play against Ipswich and then go away with Germany, that may not have been the worst thing in the world because he gets some more minutes under his belt and build up his match fitness for when we come back to play Spurs. But the fact that he's not fit at all, I don't know. I mean, it does concern me. I mean, it's good that he's back at West. He's going to be sticking at West Ham and training, but you can't beat match time, can you? And that's the thing. No. So hopefully, he just needs to get some games, mate. Everyone wants to see him on the pitch, you know, just to basically, you know, kind of deliver on what we all hoped he would.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, been to Upton Park in the 1970s and 1980s when the atmosphere was right. It was occasionally, wasn't it? I mean, there was also some really good atmospheres in the 80s. I've got some good memories. I didn't see many games in the 70s. I did towards the end, like 78 to 80, and there were some good atmospheres there in the old second division. I used to love it. But then again, I was young, right? I impressionable. It was when I first started going, and everything's exciting when you're that young, isn't it? We must not go behind early. I agree with this week. Please don't let us go behind early. Please. You know, let's focus. Antonio worked his socks off. That's why he couldn't control after first. He has played like that for a long time other than Liverpool. Yeah, he did work his socks off. Absolutely did. And he did that against Man City, and he did it when was the last time he did? Look, it's 3 or 4 occasions that he's done it, but he's also had a couple of occasions where it's been awful.
Yeah.
Fulham being one of them, right? That was terrible. So let me go to the bottom of the comments. Hang on a minute. So, right, a few more, and then we'll talk about the game. Our players flying around the world. I hate it. I really do. Been in support 58 years, says Colin. I was a regular, but now I can't get to games due to full-time living care of my dearest friend who suffers with dementia and a wheelchair. Well, sorry to hear that, Colin, but it's a worthy thing you're doing. And, that's more important than going to West Ham, to be honest. So, listen, you're a West Ham fan, whether you're at home watching it or not. Gets 10 to 15 games, says Randy, but we have to start climbing the league quick. Yes, we do. Well, I think ideally on Saturday, let's just talk about what would constitute a good result on Saturday. I mean, Ipswich have only lost 2 teams. They've lost to City and Liverpool in the league, and they've drawn the other 4, which is quite amazing, really, isn't it? For a freshly promoted team, that's actually pretty good. The teams that they've played, apart from Villa, which was a great result at home to Villa, but I do kind of discount the home games because it's at Portman Road, little tight ground if you've been there. And there's definitely a little home advantage that they're going to have against teams. So I don't think they'd go to Villa and get a draw, but at home, maybe. Other than that, I think they drew away to Brighton as well, which is obviously a decent result. So they're obviously
they've drawn to Villa, so they drew the last game against Villa, and they drew
Fulham,
Southampton,
and
they also drew at Brighton away.
Brighton, Fulham, Southampton, and Villa. So I think out of those games, I think Brighton, they're not really setting the world alight at the moment, are they? Southampton are obviously one of the weaker teams. Fulham are a decent side, as we saw, and Villa are a very decent side. So they've got a couple of draws against decent sides and lost against good sides, like pretty much we have.
But on that note, so the only team that they've got beaten convincingly by is City. When they played Liverpool, they lost
2-0.
2-0, 2-0. And they weren't bad in that game. They had chances, mate, right? So I can't feel that you write them off at your peril. I don't think they're such a bad team. And I think just because they're a newly promoted team, a lot of fans will say by default, oh, you know what, they're going to get relegated, they're crap. Now, on paper, if you look at their players, of course, you can't compare them to other teams, and you certainly shouldn't compare them to our team. They've got a better squad of players.
Yeah.
But they're actually a pretty decent team as well, though, Gal. They are.
They are. And this is why people, there are some people saying it's a must win. I don't think it's a must win. It's a must not lose, right? We can't lose to them because, again, I'm going to review every game on its merits. I ain't going to get carried away for probably like you about 10 games, right? If I see no pattern after 10 games, I'll probably start to get a bit irritable. But after, like we were at Chelsea last week, if we lose against Ipswich, I'm going to be pissed off afterwards, completely pissed off. But really, it means nothing other than we've lost to Ipswich. It doesn't mean he's got to be fired. It means he still hasn't had enough time, as far as I'm concerned. Do you think Loppy will be gone if we beat Ipswich? No, I mean, they're stirring it up in the media. They're saying, oh, he could be in trouble. We could be in trouble. In fact, I've heard it on other YouTube channels. Absolutely adamant that he could be in trouble. But then West Ham, I doubt it because they don't usually fire people like that, do they? They usually give them a time. I think he gets till Christmas, irrespective of whether, I think he'll get a good time to try and prove himself. I don't think that Sullivan is going to give up on a manager that quickly. I don't think he's wrong.
I think you and I might differ on our opinions on this game at the weekend because for me, I think it is a must-win game. I do. Not necessarily just because of Lopetegui. I think it's a must-win game to get the fans on side here. Like it really is. So for me, a draw. I mean, again, it depends on the performance. If we're really, really unlucky, but we play incredibly well, I'm not going to be so disappointed. But if we lose, I'm genuinely not going to be happy, as I'm sure every other West Ham fan won't be either. But for me, it's a must-win game, mate. We've got to be winning these types of games at home. We have to. A draw's not enough for me unless the performance is outstanding and we get unlucky somehow.
Oh, no. It's not enough for me after either. I want to win, and I expect to win as well. But I'm just, so we're not going to disagree on that. Is all I'm saying is, if it doesn't happen, if it was a defeat, I'm going to have to fucking ump if that happens.
It goes into the manner of the defeat, though, Gal, because if we get tonked by Ipswich, then clearly I'm going to be pissed off, and I will start asking questions on Lopetegui if it continues in that manner. Against
if that happens, if we were to get slaughtered by Ipswich, I mean, bloody hell, I would start to panic myself, right?
Yeah.
I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. But again, not the first time I've been wrong, is it? So Green Badge thinks it's a must-win game. Zanushi says Lopetegui's not getting sacked. I think they're both right, actually. I think at home to Ipswich, freshly promoted Ipswich, when you ain't had a home win so far, I think you've got to look at this as one you've got to be looking to win, right? And I'm sure he is looking to win, right? He's looking to win.
Do you think any of their players aren't playing for Lopetegui right now, Gal?
Yeah, I think they are because of the second half that we saw the other day. I think they were absolutely playing for the manager. I think there's one or two who maybe are not, and one of them I'd say might be Alvarez, and the other one, the one I'm to be convinced on, obviously because of what's happened this week, especially, is Kudus. Kudus has moved agent. He's not with his other agent anymore, who was a historical troublemaker, right? Yeah, sorry, Black Country is another Sullivan masterpiece. Yeah, it is a Sullivan masterpiece, but he owns the club. What do you want us to do, right? Just moan about every manager he puts in place. I mean, got to give the guy a chance, whether he's hired him or not. And we kind of know he has, right?
Yeah.
He's still a West Ham manager. And me, myself, I've never been one to jump on the back of a manager getting fired, believe it or not, after what I was like with Moyes in the end. I didn't actually moan about Moyes for 2 years, right? So it took me a long time to actually get to that stage. And it will take me a long time to get to that stage with Lopetegui. I'm just not a hair trigger sort of person. You know what I mean? I don't just decide he's crap, he's got to go. It takes a while for me to reach that conclusion because I want to see all the evidence first. It ain't just screwing up once; it's screwing up multiple times over a period and showing that you don't know how to use your players, showing that you ain't got your players on side, maybe losing the dressing room, all that kind of stuff. None of that's happened yet. All right.
We don't know what Lopetegui sees in the training ground, right? And I know there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, Lopetegui said that he'd been watching West Ham for the last couple of seasons or whatever it is. He knows all about West Ham. So why is he playing these players again?" But we don't know, right? We don't see what's going on at the training ground. He might be seeing something different in some of those players that he thought otherwise. Hence the reason he's sticking with some of those players. So we don't know this stuff. It's easy for us as fans to have a go at the manager, but we don't know. It's as you said earlier, it's a very subjective thing, football. We all have opinions on things. And I guess the large overall consensus of people will say, well, Alvarez shouldn't be playing here or Kudus shouldn't be playing there. Yeah, we know those things. But I think he is still trying to figure things out. Yes, it might be taking him a bit longer to do that. But you know what? If you look back in history and you look at some of the greatest managers, and I'm not saying Lopetegui is, by the way, just to clarify, but whether that's Fergie, whether that's Wenger, and I remember Wenger had a torrid time when he started off as Arsenal manager. Fergie back in the 80s, he didn't start particularly well. There's so many examples of this. I mean, you've got like Jose Mourinho when he was was it Benfica? And there's honestly so many examples of this. Just give him time. He's had 6 bloody games, right? He could turn it around. I'm not saying he will, but he could. So we have to go with the hope that he will, back him, support him, and hopefully it turns around. But if it doesn't after another 4 or 5 games, then I'll be the first one to be waving the Lopetegui flag out. But for the time being, I'm going to stick with
listen, I agree. And there are 2 really good comments here. One from Claire that says, I agree with Chris, we need to win and reunite the fans. The divide is now huge. And that's the thing I hate is the fan division, right? So again, for that reason, I think it's absolutely one we've got to try and win. And Leon says a similar thing, not a must win for Lopetegui, but it is for the club. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And Green Badge says he's got to target these teams. I think everyone's thinking at home. Listen, I'm a bit of a West Ham snob, right? If we're at home to anyone outside the top 3 or 4, I do expect us to try and win the game. I expect us to win most of the time. Drawing at home to Fulham like we did last year, that nothing for me. Not beating Palace at home. I expect to beat Palace at home. I don't care how big they are. I expect to beat Brighton at home. I expect to beat Brentford at home. I expect to beat all of those teams at home, right? That is where I am inside my head. So, yeah, believe me, I'm not looking for a draw or a defeat. I was just talking about what could happen if it happened.
You're just saying you're not going to panic, basically. As long as we put in a good performance and we don't get smashed. If we did lose, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because it's just about, as you always say, iterative improvement. And if you see a bit of improvement, but for me, like I would say, improvement would be getting a win. We've got a win and the performance. I want a performance and I want a win.
Well, I'd like to see that, and I'd like to see a win, and I'd like to see if it does happen. I'd like to see him give him some credit because rather than some people, which is what they will say, it was just Ipswich, he's got to win that. Yeah.
So all the people banging on about Brentford, it was Brentford's B team. Well, do you know what?
I know.
The B team played a few other games as well. Yes, they also had injuries in some of the other teams, some of the other games that they actually won. So it's still a fucking good team. It's bollocks. It annoys me when people say that because they've still got a very good squad out there. They have.
You know what though? Is all they're doing is repeating a line they've heard on another channel, right? That's all they're doing. The piss taking and all that. You know, it's not. You know, it just don't make sense. It's like two comments that I had that were identical to that video in that video on Monday was, how can you turn a blind eye to throwing away your first 9 home points of the season? How can you write that off? Well, it's City, it's Chelsea, it's Villa, right? It weren't Forest, Fulham, and Palace, was it? Right, so that's how I mean, I tend to put things behind me. And what I do is when I go football, this is the kind of headspace I get in. That Chelsea thing, when we let that goal in early, I've kind of checked out already, and I'm just watching the game. I'll get my upset out of the way early in a game. So when it comes to the end of the game, I've kind of expected it and accepted it already. So I don't go into a meltdown. The time I really get upset is when we because we didn't when we turn up and we don't perform at all and we look utterly rubbish like we did against Chelsea. And that was last week when we did the post-match review. I was angry because that's how it affects me when I go all the way to football and the team don't bother turning up or it gets the tactics wrong or something like that. That for me is, I won't say it's unforgivable because that's kind of a no return thing, right? I'll just say that winds me up. That winds me up. It makes me angry. But it is football, and a day later, I've calmed down.
Yeah. I think sometimes you do need to kind of digest the game a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've come off the back of games before, and I'm fuming. But then sometimes I do watch it back, and I see things that perhaps maybe I didn't see to a degree, and I think, well, actually, do you know what? Maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh here. But I mean, like it's like the Liverpool game last week. I was gutted about that. I was pissed off about it, but I wasn't that pissed off by the performance. I thought we were actually pretty decent for large spells of that, and you wouldn't think about it when you look at the result.
Yeah, I know. But again, people just look at the result and cite the result back. Oh, 5-1's a great performance, isn't it? Which is what they did in the comments, right? And the thing is, you're just completely checking out of any of the detail if you say something like that, and you're just repeating someone's line because you like it, and you think it makes a good little soundbite. Yeah. Fergie was one FA Cup game away from sack. Yes, he was. Reserving judgment until Christmas. I think, in truth, that is what I'm doing. It's Christmas because I think that is a long enough period. I think if after 10 games we haven't improved at all, then I think I'm going to get a little bit panicky. Yeah. But I don't consider that's going to happen because I think we are better now than we were, for instance, in the first game against Villa. I think we were better in the last game than we were against Chelsea last week. That ain't hard. Hopefully he's not going to do those. He's not going to play those sort of tactical games very often, where he tries something new against a really good side. Perhaps try it against a slightly lesser side next time, Loppy. But yeah, who knows? Right, should we have a look at the lineup? See what we can create. See how creative we can be, Chris.
God, yeah. I'm getting wrong, mate. I'm going to get sorted for it.
Yeah, I know. Let's see if I can manage to share it. Hang on a minute. There we go. Oh, listen, look, I've got a thick skin. I've been on YouTube for 3 years now. And sometimes when I hear something, because look, I don't actually I do watch a little bit of Hammers Chat, must admit, as well. But I don't really watch anyone else. And I mean that, not a single second of any other channel. Mainly because I don't really want my views to be someone else's views, right? I want to develop my own. And so that's what I do. You can like that or not like it, but that is the way it is. But it's very clear because things just get back to me. They get sent to me in a message. Have you seen this? Have you seen? No, I ain't. Right. And I don't. And even when someone tells me they've seen it or heard it, I don't go back and watch it. Right. Can't be asked. Really can't be asked. But it's clear that certain other people are watching every second of the stuff I make and reacting to it. So well done. I must be sweet. I must be living inside your head rent free.
Yeah, everyone's entitled to opinions, and it doesn't mean that you're right. It doesn't mean that I'm. And this is the thing. It doesn't mean that anyone else that is doing this is wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's just an opinion. And I think that for starters, you look at your lineup that you've got there. You can guarantee you're going to get a load of keyboard warriors behind there saying, "What the fuck's going on there? Why is he got What's he got? Kudus on the left,
gonna...
Antonio up top. You know it's going to happen, right? So I just think it's about. For me, I don't really give a shit, right? These are opinions. These are my opinions about what, and your opinions on what we think is the right thing to do, based off games we see, based off certain individual performance we see. So yeah, but talk me through your lineup. I'm interested to get the
look, don't get me wrong. This ain't my lineup. This is the lineup I reckon he'll play, right? And I think that's where I wanted to start from. So I think Mavropanos will stay on the right. I think Wan-Bissaka will stay on the left. Kilman and Todibo, the fortress in the middle. I don't think he's going to drop Souček after he was really effective the other day. I do think Alvarez is going to come back in, and I hope it's the real Alvarez this time and not this geezer that's been jumping into tackles recklessly. He's been a nightmare this year. He really has been. He's tried to get himself off. I'm not tried to get himself sent off. That's an unfair thing to say, right? But that's what sometimes when he's got a yellow card already, he'll recklessly fly into something. Paqueta's done it as well, right? It's like I'd like to show him, him to show a bit of remorse for his madness, Alvarez. I'd like to see him really put in a proper tier 1 Alvarez performance this week. Back to his old best, right? And his old best would be, fuck all these others out of the way, actually sitting in front, protecting that back, either back 3 or back 4. Because I think when we go forward, we tend to be a 3. But I want him shielding that defence. I don't want him going anywhere else. Just work in a little circle. Let these other boys, Tadibo's got pace, Kilman's got a little bit of pace. These are not slow either. He doesn't need to be darting left and right and lunging into last-minute tackles, right? Mm-hmm. Just stop people coming through the middle and give the ball. And give the ball to someone that can play with it. I would like to see, obviously, I'd like to see Soler playing. And I've heard, a lot of people have criticised Soler, saying, "Oh, what have we actually bought there?" Well, again, I know some people don't like stats, but statistically, he was amazing when he came on the other day. Right, believe it or not, he won the ball so many times. And he does the simple thing, as in playing a quick pass, which is what we've been asking for. It's someone who can, rather than side, let the other team get organised in defence, and then put the slowest ever transition of play into attack. He's the sort of person that can make that stuff happen more quickly. He's the person that could get the ball, for instance, to a Paqueta playing a number 10 role. He could get him to get it to him quickly, give him a half a second of extra time so that he can find someone. That is Soler. That is not Paqueta. But then again, Brentford are an industrial team, and I think Souček suited that game because he's an industrial player, right? I hope we see the re-emergence of the original Paqueta, because I don't think we've seen him so far this season. I think he's been a shadow of his former self, just a geezer who don't seem to give a toss, and he's giving the ball away left, right, and centre, and he's still playing in David Moyes style. He's still trying to recreate the stuff he was doing last year, but he ain't got the players around him to do it, right?
So this is what you think Lopetegui is going to line up with, against Ipswich on Saturday?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my opinion what I think he should do, but with regards to what I think he'll do, I don't think he's going to put Mavropanos on the right, even though he made a good, he came on and did well at right back. I think it depends on how fit Emerson is. I mean, if Emerson's not fit, then I suspect that would be the back 4. But if he is fit and he's raring to go, and I think Emerson comes in at left back, Wan-Bissaka at right back, to Debo and Kilman as the centre halves, I think that will happen. I don't think he'll start with that back 4 if Emerson's fit, mate. I can't see him doing that. I think he will play Souček, and I think he will play Alvarez. I totally agree with you on that one. There's part of me that thinks that, you know what? I don't think he will play Kudus on the left. I don't think he will. I've got a feeling that he ain't going to start Antonio, that I reckon he might play Jared Bowen up top instead. Play Kudus on the right and play Paqueta on the left-hand side. Honestly, I think he might switch it around again.
You know what? As well, right? There are a few lessons that he learned the other day, I think. Paqueta on the left, even though we hated it last year, because of the way he was being used on the left, he was actually restricted. He was out there until he was allowed to come inside. Whereas what happened the other day was that he was... Am I? What am I missing? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I would Well, who are we going to do as Soler?
Well, hold up, right? So this is what I think. I've got a feeling that Lopetegui might do something like this at the weekend, right? So this is not necessarily what I want, but this is what I think he might do. But actually, do you know what? Having said that, I don't think I'd be that far away from this, because I would like to see Soler, and I would like to see Soler in there, and I'd like to see Paqueta in the middle as a 2 in front of Alvarez. So if you put Paqueta in central midfield and take out Souček, this is what I would like to see. So Alvarez just in front of the back 2.
I've lost Soler. I can't find Soler. What bloody hell's going on here?
Yeah, don't want Rodriguez in there, mate. Please take him out.
I'll tell you what, right? Because this is an old version of the team. Gideon Kadua is Carlos Soler until next week when I fix this damn thing, right? So Alvarez.
Alvarez in front of the back 2. Let's say Kadua / Soler in midfield with Paqueta. Yeah. And then I'd play Somerville on the left, Kudus on the right.
4-1-4-1 then you're thinking.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I'd like to see that. Yeah. Have you honestly not got him there, Soler? I thought you had him there.
No, I had him. in another. It's the way this software works. I need to load another team, right? But Kadua is Soler. I don't want to play Kadua, right? Because he's not even at the club. He's at Wickham.
Incoming abuse, mate. Incoming abuse.
Just want to make that clear.
Yeah. You have to say it, mate. You have to, because you know.
I have to do. Yeah. No, I definitely ain't got him. So I think that is sorry, on the left you'd be Somerville, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're talking about Paqueta or Somerville. What do you reckon?
No. I want. This is what I would like. I would like Paqueta, and I'd like Soler in the midfield, just above Alvarez, who's sweeping up, cleaning up behind them, right? That would be an ideal scenario based on who we've got available for this week. I can't really see any other alternative, because I don't really want to start with Antonio. I'd rather see him backs up. I want to see Kudus on the right. I want to see Somerville start, because I think he deserves to. He's our only naturally wide left-handed player that we've got. And I think still Paqueta through the middle with Soler would make sense. And just behind them, they've got Alvarez to protect. That's what I'd like to see. Yeah. I don't think that is exactly the lineup I'd like to see, but I probably got it way off there. I can't see that happening.
Yeah, no, I think he has nailed it. But Green Badge, don't go criticising me, right? Because first of all, I take it personally. But secondly, I was putting up what I thought Lopetegui had start with. Now, Chris thinks he's the Lopetegui whisperer, and he's seen into his soul, and he thinks he's going to play this team. I disagree. I would be delighted if he picked this team. I don't want the one that I put up. Right? Love the look of yeah. Cheers, mate. Cheers. That looks good, Chris. You're getting all the credit, Chris. It's wrong. But yeah, I think that does look good. I mean, it's got everything. Defensively, I don't think, Emerson would be fine against Ipswich, I would imagine. So yeah, what do you know about Ipswich?
Do you know, not a great deal. I've watched 2 of the games so far this season, and I think the obvious standout player that you've got to worry about is that Delap. He's looked pretty decent, actually. He has scored 2 good goals at the weekends, and I think it's the other guy as well. I think he's ex-Chelsea. Is it Hutchinson? He looks pretty handy as well. So, but the big concern I have. Who was I saying this to? I don't know if I was saying this to you, Gary. It might have been Danny who's in the chat here. I was having a chat with him about this the other day. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, and you understand this, right? It would not surprise us if fucking Calvin Phillips played and scored, would it? Let's be honest. It's almost written. I feel like I need to stick a score on this to happen. Not that I want it to, but you could imagine it happening to West Ham.
Oh, Calvin Phillips is playing for Ipswich.
Yes.
No. Yes. Say it ain't so. Oh no.
So you might as well stick a score on him to score, because we're the sort of team that will allow that to happen.
Oh, I'm going to do that, because if I put a score on, it won't happen. Let me say that. I'll never win bets. Poor me. West Ham winning 5-1 v Portsmouth women, and 2-2 in the under 23s or ones, was it? Can't remember. But yeah, I think that is a good team, and I think, as someone said, I think it's that is possibly our best team if you look at the available people at the moment. I do have a don't jinx it. Yeah, I know. But again, can I see Lopetegui responding to a shit fit from Kudus by giving him what he wants?
I'm not saying that's the case, though. I think maybe he'll stick him on the right purely because I think he needs to have natural width on the left with Somerville.
Yeah, that'd be a better outcome, by the way, wouldn't it? Phillips gets a red card. That'd be brilliant.
I said that. It would be amazing if Phillips has the debut for like he did for us. Remember when we played Bournemouth at home when he made that mistake in the first minute? He needs to do that. But he nearly scored, actually. I watched the game at the weekend and he had a shot. He hit it on the volley and he absolutely smashed it. The Villa keeper saved it. It was a bloody good save. And straight after that, I turned around to my son and I said, you know what? I reckon he's going to score against us at the weekend. I can just...
Ben Johnson and Phillips combined to score against us. Stop it!
Jono can't even get to the Ipswich team, mate. He can't even get off the bench right now. He can't.
I know. But yeah, I think it's we do have options, and I mean, so it was really good to see Todibo play well the other day. I really like his calm. You know what he doesn't do that Mavropanos does is that Mavropanos tends to rush out of defence. He tends to rush. He loses his discipline and he gets attracted to something shiny. He rushes out of defence, loses his position, and leaves us vulnerable. Todibo doesn't do that. He's very calm, very calm. He doesn't get carried away. And as he gets better, he looked good in training today. I watched the training thing. They all seemed very happy. Well, I say happy. They looked all right.
Do you know, on Todibo, Gal, the only thing with him, and I really like the fact that he's up in the last couple of games, but do you sometimes think that maybe he's a little bit too calm? Because he does a few little things, little turns, little half turns he does now and again. Like, oh, that's a little bit dangerous. He's got away with it so far.
Can you be too calm, Chris? I don't know. No, I don't think he is too calm, to be honest.
I'm not. Again, I don't want to jinx it, but sometimes I look at him and think, oh gosh, I love what he's done. You know, when he's kind of turned a few players, I'm like, I love that. But it does worry me sometimes that you can't take liberties as a centre half in the Premier League either. Sometimes, so could be a potential problem later on down the line.
He'll live and learn, right? Craven says, honestly, do think we'll lose. It's just so West Ham, the gift that keeps giving. We'll get the winner, Calvin or Ben Johnson. Yeah, I mean, it's written in the stars, isn't it? Probably. Unless it bounces off his arse, Phillips won't score. Flipping us the bird. Might flip us the bird, yeah. He did that before, didn't he? Phillips scoring is the mythical West Ham way. Can you swap Kudos and Bowen? Well, yeah, I suppose you could. Again, I'd like to see it. I guess the advantage you got is Bowen played there quite a lot last year and he was relatively successful at it. Had Ipswich won, maybe fancied a win, but a team who are playing well haven't won and rock up at London Stadium. It's fucking written in the stars, isn't it? Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think anything's written in the stars yet. I think a lot depends on us. And if we balls up the tactics and the selection, like we did against Chelsea, then we're asking for trouble. The only thing that gives me hope about potentially playing your formation is he does tend to go for it more at home. Right, so I think Somerville's more likely to get a start at home against Ipswich than he was away last week, right?
Yeah.
I think Paqueta likes playing on the left. I think he does as well, as long as he's not restricted to the left and he can come inside. Yeah, he likes the freedom, doesn't he? Villa 0-0 half time, had a goal ruled out. Who are they playing? Don't change it, Chris. No.
Change what?
I think he was talking about they could do some Bowen. Thing. Yeah, I would like to personally see. I think Kudus playing on the right is a dead cert. You know you're going to get a good performance from him because you always do generally, and he's got like a minimum level of performance expectation. I think Kudus. I've very rarely seen him have a bad game, but I did see him have quite a bad game in the first half the other day. So, but again, even that it was a half of two halves, right? The second half of the first half, he was actually better than the first bit. The first bit was deeply unimpressive, but he usually delivers to a minimum standard. He's got, I think he's got too much pride to not try at all. So I think if you put him on the right and that is where he wants to play, I do think you're going to get a proper motivated Kudus. Well, and Somerville, I love seeing Somerville on the left. I know he's not the finished article yet, but I love seeing a natural left-sided player playing on the left. I think it's fantastic, and I think he's like one goal and a bit of confidence away from really growing.
Yeah, I would agree. He needs more game time on a consistent basis, and I think with Kudus, and I actually do expect that he will play on the right, not just because of this so-called row, that he's had with Loppy, but I think also the fans want it. I think it's clearly out there. Lopetegui knows it as well, but also now that there has been this row between Loppy and Kudus, perhaps Lopetegui's gonna be like, all right, do you know what? Go on the fucking right hand side, go on the and show me what you can do. So I would imagine that Kudus will be pumped for this game, and he knows he's going to have to put on one hell of a performance now, because if he is moaning about him playing on the left-hand side, you would expect that he's going to really turn it on at the weekend if he plays in his favoured position. So let's hope that happens, because
I think you're right from a psychology perspective. I think as a manager, of my many teams over 20 odd years that I used to manage, not football teams, just teams, right? If somebody kicked off like that, because believe it or not, they would, right? If they think they're doing the wrong role and they can do something else better, I probably would do exactly that. You're right. I probably would say, look, fine, if you want to do it, I'll put you in that position, but you better be successful at it.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think you're right. I hadn't quite thought of it like that.
The only other thing with regards to my formation and my lineup is, do you think that Lopetegui would only ever play one holding midfielder rather than that double pivot holding at the back? Because he's not showed that yet this season. He's always played the two, hasn't he? Like, whether that's Alvarez and Rodriguez, he's not played the one. I personally think that he doesn't need to play the two. If we're going to start attacking teams and pressing teams hard at the pitch, he only needs him there. So forget the fullbacks pushing up too high. Forget that. Flat back four, right? First bank of four, flat back four, Alvarez in front. That should be enough. And let, as I said before, our attacking players, our wingers and our two central midfielders and Bowen attack teams, press teams high up the pitch, because we don't press enough. And I'd like to think that we've just won there in Alvarez. That would be enough, as long as our fullbacks don't, 4A2 high up the pitch. I think that would work, mate. I really do. But if he wants his fullbacks to go high up the pitch again, it kind of leaves us exposed all the time. So I just want to see that a little bit more disciplined, in those fullback areas. It has to be.
Yeah. No. I agree. You don't need to put any more defenders in the team than the back, what would be a back five, right? I mean, he's a defensive player, Alvarez, and you've got a back four already of seasoned defenders. You don't need to put another one in there.
Particularly at home as well. Particularly at home and against Ipswich. Yeah. That is the sort of game where we should really be attacking those teams, right? We should absolutely be doing that. So we don't need any more than Alvarez in that holding role. We just don't. And but the only way it works, as I say, is if our fullbacks are a bit more disciplined and are instructed not to go forward by Lopetegui. I think it works.
Sorry, can of pink monsters, mate. A bit tired. I know I shouldn't drink it. It's terrible for me. I know. Stop shaking your head. All right. Yeah, I agree with that, because if you go back to when Alvarez first came on the scene, I've said this a million times, but against Brighton, he was playing that role by himself, taking care, guarding the back four, trying to scan the horizon for danger, and then zooming in on it and shutting it, cutting it out. That is what he's good at. And when he was forced to play alongside Souček, especially Souček, right, in that double pit for Moyes, it didn't work. It never worked, because I'm inclined to believe, I think he likes to be sort of in control of his own destiny and not be part of a partnership where he's kind of confused when to stay and when to go. I think I'd rather he was just a solo. I think he'd be good like that.
I think that's where he would be probably most effective, playing on his own in that. I do, because the reality is with Rodriguez, I don't want to completely discard him as a player, because there's still parts of him that I do like as a player, but I think he showed that he's too slow for the Premier League. So there's only certain games that I think he will be useful for us, in my opinion. I don't see him being useful when one of those two holding roles. Just don't see it.
Alvarez, well, again, Alvarez is not quick, right? I mean, you got to say that Rodriguez probably not much slower than Alvarez, to be honest. But you can't have two of them really slow in the middle there. If you play, the same applies as far as I'm concerned to Guido, right? If he's going to play, don't get him to go running up and down the pitch. Get him to sit back and protect the back four. That's all he's got to do, right? He hasn't got to go chasing all around the place, because he's not fast enough to do it, and neither is Alvarez.
I'm wondering whether, like with Rodriguez, whether he actually is a holding midfielder sometimes. Does he really, crunch into tackles as much as someone like Alvarez does? I mean, I know that's kind of a rhetorical question. Of course he doesn't. But I kind of feel that position, you've really got to get fucking stuck in, right? And I don't see that a huge amount. I don't. He's got a great range of passing, and those kind of things. He's very good. I wonder whether actually he is a holding midfielder sometimes, in the sense of having that kind of defensive-minded player. I don't always see that with him. I don't know what you think, but I don't always see that with him.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing, right? Alvarez is tactically better than Guido as long as he stops losing his head. This is the thing. I think they're a class apart now in my mind. I think Alvarez is actually a supreme football player, right? He's really good. He's top notch when he's on his game. When he's not on his game, he's a fucking liability,
Yeah.
right? And then if he's not on his game and he's in that headspace, I'd rather see Guido, to be honest, because it's more than once this season he should have got sent off, or he could have got sent off because he's
Yeah.
had to take him off the pitch every time he's got booked, basically, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He has. I mean, the one against Liverpool, I mean, we fucking needed that like a hole in the head, mate. I mean, seriously, that was a joke.
Yeah,
Absolute joke. 3-1 down. Why do it? You've got people covering. Don't need to do it. So, yeah, it's just petulant. Stupid decisions. Stupid decisions he makes sometimes to dive in. Doesn't really make a great deal of sense. But hopefully, as you said, he's remorseful about that, and he turns up on Saturday and has a good performance.
Pat Holland fan. He's also a Real Betis fan. That's a good combination you got there, Pat Holland fan. But Rodriguez was average for us. Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose that's why they let him walk away on a free. They let his contract run down, right?
Was he though? I thought they were really disappointed that they let him go.
Well, they did. They really kicked off, apparently, the fans. Yeah. But maybe Pat Holland kicked off as well. Did you kick off, Pat Holland fan? Did you? But that's what was rumored in the press. Unless that was, someone trying to promote him over here. Could have been playing us, putting narratives into our mind. Gary and Chris, we should put Mavropanos up front. He started his career as a forward. Worth a try. Well, the trouble is, I think he's been typecast as a defender now. I don't think he's ever going to get that chance. But yeah, if you're chasing a game or you need a goal towards the end of the game, you've got a big lump like that who has played as a striker. When did he play as a striker, though? Was it as a professional or was it as a youth player? Because you could say Rio Ferdinand used to be a striker. He didn't end up a striker, did he? So
Ginger Pele was a striker when he was a youngster. There's you know what? I would agree with you. The only way I think Mavropanos up front is if we're chasing a goal in the last 5 minutes and we're pinging it like long into the box. That's it. I didn't know he played as a striker. I know he scored a few goals. Who did he play for before in Germany? Was it Leverkusen, or I'm getting that wrong? I can't remember.
Can't remember. But
he scores some good goals. He's got a good shot on him.
I know. Patsy Holland, unsung hero, king of the bubble haircut. Yeah, he had a lovely perm. Proper Doyle, wasn't it? Proper Doyle. And he was. I met him a little while ago on one of his West Ham nights. He looks completely different now. The perm's gone. The perm is long gone. Right, just grey hair now. And I took a photo of him because my sister used to really like Patsy Holland. Lauren used to get. She started going. She's 6 years older than me, so she started going early in the 70s. And I took a selfie with him, and I sent it to her, and I said, "Guess who?" And she said, "Frank McAvenny." I said, and Patsy Holland was there. I said, "She thinks you're Frank McAvenny." She said, "Oh, thanks very much. Looks nothing like Frank McAvenny." Sorry, Patsy. No. Watched Guido a few times for Real Betis, and he was standout. Well, he's still in the international squad he's like a squad player for Argentina, so he can't be that bad, can he? I don't think Argentina have got a terrible, terrible international team now, have they? They might have.
I think it all comes down to who you play against, what player he can be facing in his duels. Because if he's coming against someone fast in that 10, then he's fucked, right? He's going to find that very difficult. Can't do that.
Yeah, and probably if he's playing for instance, for a good side, and he's the right part in that team, he's playing exactly the right position, he'll probably be very good. Because like I was saying to you a few weeks ago when I was gushing about him, he's one hell of a footballer, He's a silky footballer. He really, really, his ball control and the way he reads the game and the way he passes the ball is second to none. And after a while, you realise he's just running in treacle, isn't
he? Yeah. No, and another thing that you see when you're at the ground, right? So, as you know, I always watch the warm-ups, right, with the players, and I know that you can only take so much out of that.
Yeah.
But one thing I did notice with Rodriguez, and I'm sure if there's a lot of fans who are watching this now that go to the games and they watch this beforehand.
Yeah.
Firstly, he's got one hell of a shot on him, and I'm not even kidding you. I was watching. I was like, Jesus, he could strike a ball like that. Obviously, proven that in a game yet, but I was watching him hit a ball dead. He was clean, like absolutely clean. He can really hit a ball well. On top of that, he's control, his passing ability, and you see that. And I watch those other players. I'm like, do you know what? Technically, he's really good, but I just think in certain games, the pace of the game is just too fast for him to keep up. So it does depend on who you're playing against. Would dictate when he should be playing.
Random question for you, Chris. When did you last watch Coronation Street? Because Stephen Russell has stood us up for Coronation Street, and he's only just appeared.
Mate, I haven't seen Coronation Street probably since the 80s. I never got into Coronation Street.
Who was in it? Who was in it when you used to watch it? Give me a couple of characters. Was it?
I don't know. Coronation Street. That's probably more up your street, isn't it? Do you watch Coronation Street?
No, I did because I had to. Because we only one telly in the house. Ran. So Hilda Ogden, Ina Sharples, Stan Ogden, Eddie Yates, all those sort of early casts. I don't know. I ain't got clues in it now.
EastEnders was my thing. I don't know.
I watched EastEnders.
It was never for me. I haven't watched EastEnders for years either. But it was always EastEnders. It was never Coronation Street for me.
Yeah.
Sharp.
I think Patsy Holland was a very good player, actually. Very good player. Right, I think we'll leave it there. We're nearly at an hour, so should we leave it? Ina Sharples, a legend. I think she was one of the original cast, if I'm not wrong, of Coronation Street. I'm guessing that, by the way. I'm just assuming she was because she was really old when I watched it. She used to have half a milk stout or something, didn't she, in the Rovers?
You're talking to the wrong person here.
No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the audience, right?
Yeah.
I don't expect you to know. How would you know? Bloody hell.
I wouldn't. Beyond my time, mate. Beyond my time.
I haven't watched it. Reg Oldsworth. God, yeah, but that's relatively modern, John. That's like a couple of weeks ago, isn't it? Or is it? Right. Used to watch EastEnders. Right. Stephen, from one soap opera to another. Right, here we go. I think Minnie Caldwell. Who's that?
With the hairnet.
Yeah, she had the hairnet. She had the hairnet as well. Yeah. Hilda Ogden. Annie Walker, wasn't it? That was the old landlady at the Rovers Return. Annie Walker. Posh Annie Walker. Albert Tatlock. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we did a proper run. Anyway, didn't mean to take us down this rabbit hole. Apologies. Ricky. Right, so let's leave it there. Chris, prediction for Saturday.
I'm going to say 2-1 West Ham. 2-1. I don't think it's going to be I want it to be a big scoreline, but I think I'm going to go with 2-1. 2-1 and a decent performance. Progression. 2-1. Calvin Phillips scoring the consolation for Ipswich Town.
Ever since I called you out on a 3-1, you ain't gone 3-1. It's as if you're embarrassed to go 3-1 now, I'm
not embarrassed. I think it's because we just don't score many goals at the moment, Gal. That's the problem. So I find it hard to go past the 2 mark at the minute. So I think I've called 2-1 for the last couple of games.
You have, yeah. I stopped calling that. I reckon it's going to be a 2-0 home win. I reckon it's going to be a tough one, but I reckon it'll be a 2-0 home win. I don't think it'll be convincing in any way, shape, or form, but really at the moment it's the result that matters. And yeah,
mate, I think it's the result and the performance.
It'll be a 2-0 home win, a clean sheet, and a meal out for the squad because we always get a meal. Perhaps that's why we started letting the early goal in to make sure the players don't want to go out for the meal. I don't know, but anyway, we'll see. If we don't let in that early goal, I think it's a clean sheet and a 2-0. Let's see what people think.
I hope you're right, but I want it to be a real performance, a performance to be proud of, and a win. I don't just want a win; I want a performance as well.
Claire's like you. Claire goes 3-2 every game. Right,
3-2. Really?
She does every game. 2-0, Randy. 2-1 win, Darren. I think you said there, didn't you? Yep. 3-1 sounds about right. I don't know where the 3's going to come from. I agree with Chris on the stunner where the 2's going to come from. I'll be honest. 1 off someone's arse would be good enough. Well, I don't know. There ain't many 3-2s, Claire. Got to watch out for Delap. Well, there's another reason why we might play Mavropanos at the right, even though Chris disagrees, because it gives us 3 big lumps against set pieces, right? 7-4 to West Ham. I'd love that, actually. I'd love that.
What a game that would be. Yeah, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Oh,
yeah.
7-4.
Phillips to pay us back some of that 7 million he cost us. When I look at him, I just see the demise of Pablo Fornells. That's all I see. Closer to Gary J's and Chris's. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, Sonny. Nothing wrong with that at all. You know? We cannot. We can't let up an early goal. No, we can't. 3-1 to us. Don't get so depressed, Sonny. Look, there's still plenty of life in us. Still at least a few weeks left. Cameron Ewans, Ben Johnson hat-trick. Oh, no. 1-1. 1-1. What is it? Sauce, Bowen and Kilman should say Suchek, shouldn't it? Suchek. 7-4 would equal the Premier League record. Yep.
I think someone's going for Hilda Ogden to score, apparently.
Hilda Ogden's going to get her head on it.
Consolation,
yeah. And I think we'll leave it there. Yeah. What we don't want is Ipswich coming at us, turning their season around with a morale boosting win. I think they've already turned their season around. They haven't actually started badly at all. I think they'd be delighted with what they've done so far, to be honest. So I don't think they're going to look to. I don't think they'd be. Don't get me wrong, it would be their first win if they did beat us. But it wouldn't be really turning their season around. They've been good already. 7-4, but 7-0 up with 5 minutes to go. Yeah, that would be West Ham, John. That would be West Ham. That is the West Ham way, actually, right there in words, John.
With Calvin Phillips scoring all 4 for Ipswich, that'd be the West Ham way. Yeah.
So thank you all for joining. Please give the video a like, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Go out and booze on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the Facebook group and you're not and you don't.
Oh, you said the wrong channel name, mate. You said the wrong channel name.
Fuck off! Did I?
You just fucking...
What a mug! Right, okay. Of course, you know why I don't do these things live, right? The Bobby Moore stand. Don't subscribe to the other one I just said. Well, you do if you want. I don't care, right? You probably know.
Oh God!
Yeah, and the Facebook group, which is called the Bobby Moore Stand Facebook group. If you're interested, it's a very nice, pleasant Facebook group. Don't want it to get too big, but you're always welcome. A few of you nice people are welcome. I think. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to be doing a match review on Saturday because, believe it or not, after all I said about going to football, I'm not actually going to football on Saturday, right? Which is a bit hypocritical of me, but hey,
you can't have an opinion then, mate. You can't have an opinion at the weekend in that case.
I know exactly the you know, the domestic stuff has taken over. I was away last weekend, and I'm going to be away this weekend as well. But then I don't plan to be away for some considerable time, so that's it. You know, edit that out. Yeah, whatever. I'm sure somebody will edit it in and share it. But there you go. Old habits die hard, don't they? As they say.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm so glad you told me. Right. Right. Here at Colin Murray Show, Radio 5 on Saturday. All about Bubbles. Song history was very good. I'll have to have a listen. I will, if I can find it. But yeah, look, until next time. Can you have my ticket, Darren? You can actually, if you want it. I've got one. I've got one going spare. You just need to ping me. You've been trying to get me on the Facebook Messenger anyway, haven't you? So get in touch with me. We'll make contact later, and I'll transfer my ticket across. Fine. Yeah, I'd rather someone use it, to be honest. Right. As long as you're not abusive to my neighbours, because I did give tickets someone once, and yeah, you know, behave yourself in my little enclave in Bobby Moore. That's like shouting your ex's name in bed. It is really, isn't it? It's a bit embarrassing, but there you go.
Did you realise it? Did I have to bring it up?
No, I didn't realise it. But look, it's not the first time I've done it. It won't be the last time I've done it. Don't forget, I was saying that channel name for over 3 years, right? I was saying those things. Sometimes it just pops into your head, doesn't it? Let's finish it.
Right, yeah.
Come on, you Irons. Beat Ipswich. Got to find the way out. Where's the way out? There it is. It ain't ended. It's still going. I'll try again. Come on, you Irons.